Here.
O'Malley.
Here. Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, I want to welcome everybody to our commission meeting, and this will be my last one. Then I'm turning it over to Chris Ronayne and his team. Jack will, I hope, stay on. I think we're entering very exciting times, so looking forward to seeing and watching all the good things that come out. Let's start, I do have some remarks, but let's start with approving the minutes of the last meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the August 24th meeting?
So move.
Is there a second? First, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Mr. Executive, I just wanted to mention there were no public comments.
Oh, okay, good. And we have a number of guests today, so I hope everybody will have an opportunity to say hello and introduce yourselves. I do want to say that, you know, from what my perspective is things are going very well, moving in the right direction. And I'm excited about what can be done in the next coming years. With the commitments that we and council have made with the ARPA dollars, I think that we're definitely on the verge of some very interesting projects. And I think those will bear great fruits for us in the county in the coming months and years. I have a lot of assets here that are very useful for bringing and maintaining business, economic development. We have water, which is in great demand around the country and the world right now. We're in the midst of I think it's about a 1,500-year drought in the west and south of the United States. And if you follow the media, you can see rivers and lakes drying up. With that, the source of water for many communities and many businesses is drying up. That translates to, I'm expecting a review by businesses as to where to go. I know that we've been working on business attraction with using our water to attract businesses. Beju and GCP, Bill and Team NEO have been working on this along with Brian Stubbs and the Water Alliance. It's very exciting, the opportunity we have. We've also gone a great distance down the road on microgrids to become the most reliable energy, electricity in the world, where we can promise a business, a resident, a business, that their electricity will not go down any more than 5 minutes in a year. That's very exciting and also very attractive. And you put those together, that also becomes very attractive to businesses, and I think gives us a real opportunity to bring businesses here. The type of business that we could attract, I think, fits perfectly Intel, for example, chip makers, Micron, and we have missed out on those because it appears that the first criteria that they look at is sites. We have to have developable sites that are large enough for these big companies. With Intel, Bill, I think they were looking for 1,000+ acres. I think that they actually ended up with like 1,200 or 1,300 acres in Licking. Oh, okay. So, those are the sorts of things. So Team NEO looked here. Cuyahoga County doesn't have any ready for development sites of 1,000 acres or more at this point. There are possibilities of putting together large sites in Cuyahoga County, but that takes time and money and effort. And a lot of these companies, when they get to Jobs Ohio and Team Neo, are looking for a much quicker result than what we have been able to offer. The surrounding counties do have more opportunity for large sites. Lorraine, Lake, Portage, you go through the list. Those counties do have large sites, and even though it's not Cuyahoga, it's certainly something that we would be very interested in because when you're talking about thousands and thousands of employees, they got to come from somewhere. And just like Intel went to Licking County, it didn't go to Franklin County, it didn't go to Columbus, it went to Licking. But the people in Franklin and Columbus are ecstatic because they're going to be providing huge numbers of employees for Intel and for this accompanying businesses that come, which many of them will end up in Franklin County because they don't need 1,000 acres. They need much smaller sites. So we need to be working closely with our colleagues in those other counties and having them help us and help themselves be ready for the next large sites. Mary's here? Our County Planning Commission has put together, has been working on this, and some of the sites that they've been able to put together are promising, and we need to continue to follow up on those. We just met the other week on that. Two things I'm going to suggest that my successor and that this group look at and do are, first, we need to be open to a regional approach on these things. We need to, I've had contacts personally with some of my friends that are commissioners in these other counties and have said, we will be supportive. I'm sure I can have allies on county council that will be supportive. If we could get an Intel to come to Lorain County, we'd support that.
Absolutely.
So, it's the sort of thing that we need to be looking at regionally. That's number one. And number two is we need to be somebody needs to make the investments in preparing these large sites. In Licking County, it was, they had a guy named Les Wexner who was, among other things, the Limited, and he has billions of dollars. So he was very helpful. He worked with their GCP and their business community and their Team Neo, and he put together the land. Personally, he bought a lot of it. He got options on land. He was ready to go. He prepared the property. It was not done immediately. It was done over time, but he did that. We don't have, to my view, a Les Wexner that's going to do that. Maybe we do somewhere, and I'll turn it over to the other economic development experts in the room that can maybe point to somebody like that. But I have not met somebody that's willing to come out and put in billions on the IFCOM to put the property together. So I'm going to suggest that my successor, county council, this group, look at putting together a consortium that can collect investments, put together a variety of partners. Cuyahoga, Lake, Lorain, I think we'd have players from all those counties that would come together, the business communities in those counties. And, we have partners that are already able to do that. Team Neo, GCP, others that can step in and help put together a consortium like that, raise the money, start to put the properties together so that in 6 months from now, when the next Intel comes to town and says, we're looking for a spot, we don't lose them to Licking County. When the next Micron comes to town and says, we're looking for 800 acres, they don't go to Syracuse. We need to be able to be ready, not just say, well, we can put together the property, which is where I was when I heard about Intel. We could put together 1,000 acres, but, give us a year. Well, they don't give us a year. So we need to start that. I think we need to start it now. So I'm looking at Eric Wobser, who's going to be the next chief of staff, and that's my suggestion as to what to start looking at, so we're prepared for those next big opportunities, because it looks like there are opportunities coming to Ohio. That there are some are 50 acres, some are 100 acres, some are 500 acres, but some of them are 1,000 and 1,500 acres, and we got to be ready for the whole the whole range of those sites, and be able to provide, because we have other assets. Again, I think if we had a 1,000-acre site that we could have provided quickly up here in Northeast Ohio, combine that with the water, which is what Chipmaker needs, combine that with microgrids, which is the reliable energy that they need, we could have been successful in possibly getting an Intel here, and that changes everything. So that's how I'm leaving you the challenge to put that all together. And Beju, what, you going to be able to do that?
Well, we're looking forward to your next career as a real estate speculator, county executive, and we'll be working with you.
Right. And Bill, you have any comments about what we should be doing here on that? I know it's coming up, actually. I don't want to take your business attraction and site promotion, so I'll hold off until you're ready to go. That was my remarks. But I also want to just add that I've enjoyed working with all of you. It's a great group of people. One of the biggest assets that, we all know, but, it's hard to explain is our people. We have great people. We have visionary people. We have hardworking people up here. We have talented people. We have skilled people. And we can, I believe, provide the necessary workforce, the necessary talent, the necessary leadership for any company that wants to come here. And I know Freddie's been with the city of Cleveland, has worked on bringing companies here, and how good a population we have here, and all of you are the leaders, and I appreciate all that you do to support that. So I'll keep my remarks to that, but I do really appreciate working with all of you and getting to know all of you, and personally as well as from a business standpoint. So thank you. All right, Department of Development overview.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Executive. First of all, for the record, my name is Vaughn Johnson. I'm the Deputy Director for Economic Development. I am not Paul Herday, who is the Director of Development. I wanted to give a brief overview of what we do in economic development, at least some of the things that we do. I believe the transition team has received a economic development booklet, but I have some updated copies. Sylvia, could you make sure that the transition team gets those updated copies of that book? I would really appreciate that. In economic development, we have a suite of traditional economic development lending products and programs. We also have other programs and products that will help businesses grow. We have a small staff, but we have a very experienced staff, a very dedicated staff, a very educated, knowledgeable, and credentialed staff that help to bring some of these projects to fruition. We leverage our resources. We have approximately $18 million in our Economic Development Fund for 2023, and we work with all of our municipalities, as the executive said, on identifying sites as well. We also work very closely with our partners, and some of those you're going to hear from this afternoon. We have 3 panels that are going to talk for 20 minutes each and discuss a variety of topics: business attraction and site promotion, innovation overview, and a small business supports overview. So with that, I'm going to ask our first set of panelists to come up, which is Bill Kaler and Mary Serby. And I encourage discussion during the presentation.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you for, it's okay. Thank you for being here. Can you hear me okay with the mask on? My mom's staying with us for the holidays, so I'm just being extra careful. Most of you know that I previously worked at Team Neo. I was at Team Neo for 9 years, so sites are near and dear to me. I led the site strategy department group there. And so as I came over to the county in January 21, Paul Hurtig and I started talking about what knowledge that I have that I could apply here and assist the county in looking at identifying sites. And not only the big, large sites, but really in our communities, what opportunities do we have for not only attraction, but to help have a site ready when our companies are looking to expand so they don't have to leave the community. So County Planning Commission has worked with Paul and his team in development to identify vacant tracts of land, both commercial and industrial, starting with, 5 acres plus, and I think we had identified over 900 sites. We understand that not all of those are going to be viable. Started looking at steep slopes, wetlands, other impacts that would prevent development of those sites. And we've started doing outreach to the communities, to talk to the communities. What do they know about those sites? Why haven't they been developed? Why aren't they in Zoom Prospector? All these things that, as the county executive mentioned, we have to be ready to go. So this is really a proactive opportunity that we've been working closely with the communities. We've reached out to 20 communities at this point. We have, I think, 6 more scheduled before the end of the year, and we are poised to present development with at least 20 sites that are potentially available for development. What we've found oftentimes is the city says, yes, this is great. We can't get a hold of the owner. The owner's not willing to cooperate. The owner won't tell us what price they want to sell it for. So I'm hopeful the new administration, in partnership with Team NEO, we can help those conversations and really get these sites marketable and ready for expansion opportunities and attraction opportunities. So county planning, we've got great mapping expertise. We are willing to help in any way we can. We are working in partnership with Team NEO and Allegro to identify some of those more ready marketable sites, and so we're going to continue to do that. And so I guess I just want to say is, even though we're not the Economic Development Department, we are willing and able to partner with you and to help advance the site strategy for Cuyahoga County.
Thank you both. The work that you just went over with us on the sites that you put together with the Planning Commission is very helpful, and we want to continue to work on that. How are we doing, Bill, on the water attraction? I know that you were working on that. The county has put some money into that now.
So we have a plan in place that we will start executing as the year begins. It's very much integrated into our existing outreach plan for next year. The money is just about available, and we're working with Brian to get all the administrative stuff buttoned up just to make sure we're in sync.
Great. Well, let me just ask, you want any comments, Jack? Because
When we talk about sizes of sites, and you said you had small to, do we have some 1,000-acre sites?
We have
that
have one we're actively working on. It's not quite 1,000, but
Okay.
It is of that magnitude that we're working on. There's another one that's an opportunity way farther outside of Cuyahoga County that we may be able to do something with. We need to do more there. We're talking about different ways to work with people to, as county exec said, to find ways to accumulate land around some big parcels. But we've got a lot of work to do there.
Okay,
But we have one that we think is very promising.
all right, and access to roads and things like that, so that it would be attractive to a business wanting to come in?
Well, the more important, roads are important, but utility access is
Yeah.
the most important, because that can take the longest and be the most expensive when a company is in a competitive process. They're going to hold that over our head. So it's really about the utility access, and in the case of semiconductor, it's about the water access, because it's a huge pipe that's required. So we have an opportunity there. It's an advantage over some communities. I will say one thing about semiconductor, and that I don't want to miss. We talk about the big sites, and it is important to get another manufacturing facility for semiconductors to have a big site. But our next opportunity is, and probably more of them, will be about supply chain to semiconductor, and they can be in much smaller sites, depending on the nature of the manufacturing that's done and the nature of the product. It could be, we could find ourselves in an opportunity to compete for a lot of different supply chain opportunities, and I don't want to lose sight of that.
And as a manufacturer, I can tell you firsthand that there was a perception that somehow we lost, so therefore Northeastern Ohio doesn't participate. And as I looked around the room, the president of Swagelok was sitting next to me, the president of Lincoln, and every single one of them is touching. There's a whole city that sits below where that chip is being sliced and diced up on the floor. And when President Swagelok said over 50% of their product is being sold to the semiconductor industry, and some folks in manufacturing had no idea that we were touching that. In Lincoln, every tube is being welded, and so on and so forth. And for us, in our own business, We've never sold anything to Semiconductor, and all of a sudden they've gone from never sold anything to our number one customer.
So we're
in
learning
80
that-
years.
We're learning that most of the activity around attraction right now at Intel is more focused on what has to be on the site. And the stuff that can be farther away is only starting to come out. Now, people are poking around and, to see what opportunities are there and trying to learn, but, those opportunities are still to come. So we have to be thinking about how we position ourselves for those.
Don't be surprised, the business attraction is already here. It's just a matter of growing that business, the support unit that could be already supporting Intel out of Northeast Ohio. And other places in the country don't have this second set of infrastructure sitting right behind it.
Dan?
Can you talk a little bit about environmental remediation? Are there unique challenges in this part of the state? I understand the state's gotten a bit more generous in terms of recouping those costs, but how significant is that when we're trying to identify these sites?
Yeah, and I'll let, I'm not sure, in Paul's place, I mean, Department of Development's got brownfield dollars as well as looking at the federal funds that are coming out. And I think one challenge, as we started talking about federal funds that were coming out last year even, of where are our worst brownfields? What are our priority brownfields that we want to remediate? It's not something that's public. So it's really having people talk about what the issues are and not having it be behind the curtain somewhere. But communities are saying that too. If they've got something that needs to be demolished. I mean, Paul's Group 2 does demo funds. So I mean, looking at these ways of how do we make sure communities and developers are accessing funds we already have, and then trying to identify new funds to get these sites really ready, because it's very costly and it takes time. But at least if we know what's there and we know what needs to be done, we've got a roadmap of how to get there.
If I could say one thing, this is one of the reasons why I think Mary's work is so important. If you go back 10 years when we had a brownfield cleanup funds at the state level, the wrap 5 years later was we spent a lot of money, we didn't get a lot of value out of it. By Mary and her team and our community having a strategic plan around site development, how it relates to our attraction opportunities, we will be spending, I would hope, more of that money, which will be dear over time, in the right place where we can leverage it over time and not be in a place where people are, sort of criticizing us for not using the money right.
The state, I think it was a state with federal money, came out with a plan and awarded, do you recall how much it was? Was it 50 million, 75? It was a lot of money, tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
To companies within Cuyahoga County.
Yeah.
But there's a match required. And so the county ponied up $5 million and awarded a series of awards for the match for those companies that had gotten the state money so that they would be able to go forward. We put up 5, and I think they're starting now on round 2, which is like $3.5 million. So we agree 100%. Council's been very supportive, and we have to clean up these properties, but they're clean upable, and the money's there now.
Yeah, and at the last meeting, we just approved cleaning up of 20 different sites. There were all brownfield sites in the county, so the money is just went to work from economic development, and we voted to clean them up. And so short of a nuclear waste dump, we can clean any site, literally any site in this county, having existed for 20 years on the worst brownfield at the Collinwood Railroad Yard. I know a little something about brownfields.
People, the issue of cleaning up sites came up in the jail context. The new jail, we were looking at a site, and it was contaminated. But we had experts come in and talk about how it could be cleaned up, and it was expensive, but it wasn't undoable. And that's the way it's going to have to be for a lot of sites in any urban area.
Good question. So, Mary, you talked a little bit about some of the challenges with either lack of information, lack of interest from property owner, the municipality. I mean, can you say just a little bit more about that, and what should the county and or state be doing to maybe create a greater incentive to take the money and get that site ready, because it hurts all of us if the site sits idle.
Right, and I think a lot of those gleanings have come from the conversations we've actually had with communities and going through different sites and various sites and what the issues may be. I think there is a role, I'm not sure who, but trying to negotiate those conversations of how do we say, owner, are you willing to sell? What's the holdup? Would you be willing to let the city have an option or the city hold it? You know, there's some of those things too where companies buy more land than they need and they don't really have a plan to use it, but they don't want to give it up just in case. And so I think there is a big opportunity. I mean, Paul and I have had several conversations about this with his team. We just met this morning on what do we do about it. We know everyone in every city is extremely busy. Sites are not their number one thing that they're worried about. So how does it become more of a priority for the county to be that clearinghouse and to help move those sites forward? So I think with our work, it's a first step, but I think there's many more conversations that need to happen. And if we do then look at, you know, here's the prioritized sites that we want to move forward, how do we help broker those conversations? So
It's a lot easier, as you know, if you can come in and say, we've got X dollars to, you know, we want an option, instead of just talking, you know, in general terms. And that's where I come back to some kind of consortium, if we have money available.
Well, and I think, so, and that is something that certainly we're in dialogues with the county, with Team NEO, with other partners about a public-private model. The other observation I would have is that if we don't have somebody accountable for assembling this portfolio, you know, everyone's got the information, but no one's actually responsible for creating the actual site, as Mary said. So what that looks like, I think there's a lot of different models that potentially could work, but that's something that we're going to continue to work with Team NEO and the county and trying to develop the model.
I would not underestimate the need to educate. The market's expectation for what a readily marketable, attractive site is keeps ratcheting up and up. And there are 30-ish, depending on the industry, criteria or specs around utilities and water and all those kinds of things that people want to know, and they want to know that we understand it. And if there's a gap, they want to know that we've spec'd out what the cost differential could be or the cost gap to remediate. There's a lot of time and attention that has to be built in that. And there are a lot of people who have the ability to influence that stuff who don't know that they can make a difference just by staying on top of it.
But they have to be reading the same thing we all are, that we're trying to amass big sites. And in order to get the big home run, you're going to have that site readily available in the eyes of, and so if you're the owner of that site, why aren't you holding your cards back to see what big number you could get? I mean, we're all human nature.
Well, there's a lot of risk tied to speculative investment, right? And the more we can understand that, how people perceive that risk, or on the other side, we at Team NEO often will see the demand. So we might have ways that we can help people bridge the time, money, and risk gaps associated with those investments. But we still have to educate, I think, is for a lot of those folks.
But if I'm a reluctant seller, because I think the next Disney might be coming to Cleveland,
I can't change mine.
I don't know, obviously that was more visual than it was anything else. But perhaps there's a way in which you would do the same thing we do in every other industry transaction, and that's give an earn-out if somebody comes online and they participate even after the sale. If you get a big enchilada that comes in like an Intel, hey, thank you, Mr. Seller, you sold it, and you're going to participate another 10, 15%, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it might be. There might be a little less reluctant sellers if I could have it. Just a thought.
Brian?
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, and thank you for this update and my comments around your comment, Beja, about accountability. The one thing I tend to say almost every meeting as we talk about topics is, what is our scorecard? Do we know whether we're winning? Are we losing? Are we okay? And to create someone who's accountable for this, then that scorecard would be kind of the measure of it. And so you got 3 different areas here, and talk about project wins. Are we winning? Are we winning enough? Are we, what's our goal to win more?
Well, I guess I would say we could always win more. This year we'll finish a pretty good year. It won't be our best. And Cuyahoga County will probably be, as it usually is, anywhere from 35% of that. So let's say 2,000 jobs plus or minus without even looking at the numbers, but that'll get you pretty close. We could do better. We could do better if we had more sites. We could do better if we had more wet lab space. We could do better if we had some cold storage locations. We know where the gaps are, and so there are plenty of opportunities to think about that, and that's part of the conversation we have where we focus on semiconductors because it's so big and visible. But we find that there are other niches that if we prepare properly, we can have a chance to win.
So we're at 2,000, we'd like to be at what?
Well, the most we've done anyways across the region has been 8,500, I think, and Cuyahoga County would be a third of that usually. But you can do more. I mean, one of these big opportunities, you get 3,000 right out of the gate for one of the big opportunities. And then, of course, the multiplier impact of that is, 3 times maybe.
Before you,
I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, in terms of sites, I don't know what the amount of acreage is along Opportunity Corridor, but we, as a group, and the city of Cleveland in particular, and the state of Ohio, have made a huge investment in that. And the reason was we're opening up all this land for development. How much is there? And as far as I can see, there's the one cold storage place that we invested in. That's about it.
We are actively showing it all the time. I will get the number wrong, but the magnitude is right. We probably have about 6 different opportunities there that may or may not come to fruition that are active. But we think that we think that there's I hate to use the pun, there's real opportunity there, and we're going to stay after it. But the great example of the win is the cold storage facility that is there. That's important, and we should find more of those. I think that there's plenty of there will be plenty of good news there over the coming year or so.
How much acreage is available along there?
I don't know.
It's probably, what is it, Freddie, about 60 acres maybe in total, but they're all parceled, right?
Yeah.
So there's like 5-acre parcels. I think at most there's a 10-acre parcel on Opportunity Corridor.
Probably 10 to maybe 12, something
10 to
like
12
that.
might be
And
the
that was-
largest parcel on that corridor right now.
Right.
So tighter parcels.
No, but we need those too.
And if I could just add one final comment, I'd be remiss not to mention the land bank. The county land bank has been a tremendous partner in the work we're doing on site identification. So I talked about identifying vacant industrial and commercial properties, and then we take a look at what's in tax foreclosure, what's in delinquency, what are they looking at? And when you start compiling all those layers together, you start getting sites of a larger size. So what may have been a 5-acre site is now a 10-acre site, or et cetera. So I think that an opportunity corridor is important too, and land assemblage and trying to get those consolidated is going to be really important, but they've been a huge partner.
Thank you very much. Thanks, both of you.
I'll tell you, coming from experience for Brooklyn, I think that COVID really slowed down the foreclosure process. And what we've seen when we're pushing on those properties and we're going to the land bank or the prosecutor's office asking to push those properties, they're 5 years behind on property taxes not paying. And when you're pushing them, it goes faster. They're releasing those properties, and we're able to turn those properties over quicker. So if we can, ramp up that process again, I think it would help tremendously.
One of the best at pushing is Councilman Polensek. Yeah.
I just want to double down on that point. We talk about what's available, meaning what's empty, but I think acquisition and being thoughtful about acquiring properties that are strategically placed next to larger sites that may be empty and vacant, and being aggressive about acquisition or maybe even buying out certain property owners if the return is worth it, but not leaving that out of the picture, I think is critical.
Some of the most exciting stuff that I've seen is going on in Brooklyn, so good job. All right, next up, Ray and Anthony Gillespie. Is Anthony here? Yeah.
Good afternoon. Great to be here. Rather than slides, I brought two reports that speaks a little bit to the innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem of Cuyahoga County in Northeast Ohio. Let me just paint in a minute kind of the best news, the good news about what's happened. I've been involved in startup tech, entrepreneurship, economic development for 18 years, and I'm pleased to say that Cuyahoga County, Northeast Ohio's never been more coordinated. I think I'm as bullish as I've ever been on the work that we're doing, and a big reason why I think that is the case is it is a collaborative in every sense. So the state of Ohio has been a very, 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 very strong supporter of the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem in Northern Ohio over the last 10 years to the tune of about $400 million from the Ohio Third Frontier. And those dollars have flowed to about 30 institutions and organizations in Cuyahoga County. So one thing I'd want to emphasize about the materials, they say Jumpstart at the on the cover, but the economic impact report for 2021 represents the economic impacts of 22 economic development organizations working as a collaborative in Cuyahoga County. So Jumpstart's collective, we're a regional entity. We have, we're headquartered here in Cleveland, but we also have a small office in Toledo. So the work that Jumpstart did in calendar 2021 generated a $1.2 billion economic impact in the state of Ohio. Almost half of that was in Cuyahoga County. The work that Jumpstart and its partners did created 5,000 jobs in calendar 2021 alone, with a very significant percentage of those jobs being held by Black, Hispanic individuals, also with companies that were founded by people of color. And we also have a very large percentage of companies that are women-led and founded in Cuyahoga County that are receiving the benefits of the collaborative. So it isn't, it might say Jumpstart, but there's lots of organizations. So as a big takeaway, I would say with that, looking over the next couple years, first is any leader in Cuyahoga County that has significant ambition around innovation and entrepreneurship, the team to partner with you is in place. So it's not like, well, how could we bring everybody together? This is one thing the county's done a phenomenal job on over the last handful of years, is figuring out who the actors are, how to get them into the room, how to incentivize the organizations to collaborate, not just with words, but with action, which I'm really proud of the progress that the community has been able to make in that regard. And then the last piece that I'd emphasize is that there's incredibly large sums of resources that could come to Cuyahoga County for innovation and entrepreneurship, but most of them require match. So whether it's, we've historically and traditionally as an ecosystem have done very, very well with the state of Ohio. We're going to continue to do well because we are so coordinated as an ecosystem, but the even bigger money is going to be coming from the federal government over the next 4 or 5 years. And I think the fact that we've spent so much time to build an ecosystem that is coordinated, that is win-win, and is thinking about the residents of the entire county, not just one industry or one sector, is going to give us a leg up to be incredibly competitive. Now, not every one of those scenarios requires match, but all the state monies do, and many of the federal monies will require some level of match. So again, this coordination around how can we bring the foundations, government above and beyond the feds and the state, and corporations, and of course our healthcare institutions. So I think we're in a really good position, and I'm super excited about what's coming next. So with that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Gillespie. I'm Director of Tech-Based Economic Development with the Ohio Aerospace Institute. And as Ray mentioned here earlier, we're one of the 22 collaborators that work with them as far as in this partnership, as far as serving companies in the entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Northeast Ohio. Besides that work, we also get involved as far as really doing a lot of work with respect to innovation and working with companies with respect, as I said, Ohio Aerospace, so we get involved as far as in the aerospace industry. But a lot of our work, just due to the nature of aerospace, really takes us across in other high-tech areas as well, as far as working with companies here in this region that are involved in manufacturing, IT, and other areas, other related technology areas to really drive economic development in the region. And so with us, as far as a lot of our work that we end up doing, one part is really working closely with partners here throughout Northeast Ohio. Jumpstart is one partner that we work with effectively here in the region as far as through the state funding that comes to them. In addition to that, we also work with a number of partners on other efforts. We've received money from the county here recently over the last year, and you'll hear from some of our colleagues, some of our partner organizations as far as efforts on that effort. We work with on that county effort is ECDI, the President's Council, and the Urban League of Greater Cleveland. In addition to that, as far as our long history of innovation has really involved three areas in particular. One is just our work as far as in technology. We're currently collaborating with partners in this region, Nottingham Spurg, and bringing our expertise as far as understanding of NASA Glenn Research Center and the commercialization process. And they bring their expertise as far as with respect to how to work with consumers and how to productize early stage innovations and bring it to the marketplace. And so this is an example of us collaborating. We're bringing additional partners to the table besides Manufacturing Works, who has that perspective as far as manufacturing and has access to the network here in Northeast Ohio. But that's just one of the examples of how we work together. We have our own team of researchers that also do and create basic research in collaboration with NASA Glenn. And so we have probably about 20 PhD researchers that actually are either on base and working on projects as far as with NASA Glenn, creating those technologies that will help create our next generation for aerospace. Besides that, as far as the second area with respect to innovation, is really that talent base. We have to build that pipeline of students and talent here in the region. And so we get involved as far as through our Ohio Space Grant Consortium, working with teachers and also offering scholarship opportunities for students who are interested into going into STEM careers. And that's supported through some federal funding from that perspective. Last but not least is just really the collaborative area that I get involved in, and really we collaborate with an outlook for growth within a region and throughout the nation. And so one of our biggest efforts that we end up doing is leveraging federal funding to help support commercialization. So the federal government has over $3 billion available for commercialization through the Small Business Innovation Research Program. And OAI is actually provides advisory support to small businesses, any small businesses throughout the state that are interested in receiving that support. And so we help these companies really get access to that funding and take their innovations and get them prepared to meet the needs of the federal government as well as for commercial clients as well. And we do that through partnership in Jumpstart and other 22 collaborators. But we also we've taken that expertise to focus on the Air Force and work with Parallax Advanced Research in Dayton, Ohio. And then we also work with other collaborators as well as far as throughout the region to take advantage of that expertise as well. So those are just a few examples of how we work and collaborate and take advantage of the whole area of our sector expertise and really leverage that to work with partners in the region.
Thank you. Again, I'll take the chair's prerogative to start. Let me back in a little bit of this for Eric. When I first came into the county 8 years ago, the county had been very interested and aggressive in making loans to small businesses, innovative businesses, entrepreneurs. Problem was the county doesn't have that expertise. The county does a lot of good things. One of the things that we don't do well is picking small business investments. It's just, so we came in, we had a portfolio of investments, loans primarily, and they were not very good. So one of the first things we did is decide to partner with groups that do understand. And so, you mentioned some of those. Jumpstart was probably the first, and ECDI and then the President's Council and Urban League followed. And we have leaned on them to make we provide funding for them to make the decisions about where to put money to support startups, small businesses, innovation. They've done great. When we started, I know we were a pain in the ass for Jumpstart because counties have to be very careful about how you go about doing things, but Jumpstart worked with us well, and I think the first was about $4.5 million or something like that, if I remember.
That's correct, and it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, that's not what you said at the time. But Jumpstart was great to work with, and we ended up getting all our money back quickly, and we still have money invested. So I mean, it's worked very well, and we've done it with ECDI, and we've done it with the others that were mentioned, Urban League and President's Council. Can
I jump in?
Yeah,
One thing
please.
on that, and that is one of the realities I think we all think about in the community is how can we convert our complexity as a community into an advantage, not a liability? And this is a perfect example where I think whether it's the complexity or the volume of partners actually is a huge strength. So the county can do something and partner with one of the organizations in the room. Well, we have a dozen partners of our own. So the county can leverage its money much more effectively than empowering somebody on the county staff to go do that when you already have organizations that have relationships with dozens or hundreds of funders. So I thought it was a smart strategy to get bigger, better, faster, quicker with less risk for the county.
Right, and it's worked that way. You mentioned Third Frontier, and I do have to pat myself on the back there, along with especially Beju here, and you were involved. When I became the Speaker of the Ohio House, I brought together a leader from up here because I didn't know what to do, and I said, what can we do that would make the biggest impact? And I think Beju that came forward with the Third Frontier. He said, that money is out there. It's running out. It was a great program started by Governor Taft, and it's got to be renewed or grown. And Northeast Ohio has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of that. So this group talked about it, supported, and we ended up not only being able to renew but grow a little bit the Third Frontier funds, which are still the funds being used now. So it was this group.
Yeah. And your leadership as Speaker, 63% of Ohio voters voted for the Third Frontier in May of 2010. And we are anticipating that the Third Frontier will either go back on the ballot in 2024 or some other mechanism, because today the Third Frontier has put out $2.2 billion since 2003. About 48% of that has gone to Cuyahoga County.
It's been great.
And a lot of that is in grants, not just in loans. So the renewal of the Third Frontier has less than $50 million in it today. So the future of the Third Frontier or the funding of these state programs is a huge priority for a lot of the folks in the innovation ecosystem.
Well, you have to do it without me this time because I won't be the Speaker. And then the county has shifted into a lot of other areas for supporting innovation. So County Council it was actually Jack's idea, I'll give him the credit, and then County Council stepped forward and supported the creation of an innovation fund for opioid solutions. And why don't you talk about it for a second, then I'll come back to.
Well, it was as hard challenges were out there, it was a challenge to convince my colleagues that to look at business solutions as a way to have an alternative to just treatment. And treatment is an important part. We all know of the opiate problem, but the opiate money that came over from Judge Polster's court, I know that I was just at Nottingham Spurk a few minutes ago, and Judge Polster specifically came to Nottingham Spurk. If anybody doesn't know who that is probably one of the top innovative organizations probably in the entire country, maybe the world. And Judge Polster said, I would like to see more business solutions as opposed to just pure treatment. Treatment needs to be done, but we're going to get done with that $150 million And if we all spend it on nothing but treatment, we're going to look back at it 3 or 4 years, and we will not be any closer to a solution. So fortunately, I was able to convince my colleagues and Armin to support the idea. I wanted it to be 10 million, but in the middle of battle, I realized that I'll take 5 million off the table and call it a win, because I really believe that it will grow to 5 to 10 to 15 to 50 to 100, and it will be the innovation for business solutions around opiates, and we will be known as the opiate solution capital. Right now, we're known as the opiate crisis capital. It would be phenomenal when people bring their businesses here, because we have 2 keys. There's only one place that has 4 hospitals systems in the entire country, probably in the entire world, 4 top hospitals, and people don't even realize we have 4. Sometimes they lose sight of, they knew the Cleveland Clinic, they know Metro, they know the UH, and they forget that we have one of the top veterans hospitals in the entire country that has a significant opiate problem. So there we can test it. We have the diversion center that Armin talked about. Nobody else has that. And so we are poised to actually build it with the manufacturing community and work with it with the medical. So I'm pretty excited.
Very exciting.
We got and Armin supported it, and we got it passed. And we just put the funds, the first $5 million, into a fairly reputable organization in the world, and the Cleveland Foundation, with its $2.5 billion of assets, will be our fiduciary, and they're going to charge us $0 no matter how much money the fund grows to. So I think that's pretty exciting. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for supporting it too.
And one other I'll mention, and then I'll turn it back to everybody for questions. The other thing is the NASA program that we've begun. Appreciate the help of the Aerospace Institute. One of the things we discovered was that NASA puts out huge amounts of technology every year, huge amounts, and it gets commercialized. The problem is that we saw it wasn't getting commercialized in Northeast Ohio. Businesses from around the country and the world would come here and take a look and review and study and pick and purchase options, commercial licenses from NASA, but we weren't getting it here. So we brought together a team. Ray was at that, and John Nottingham was at that, and we worked out a deal. First, Jumpstart, and then Nottingham have looked over have gone through hundreds of the technologies that are coming out of NASA here, and hundreds. And I was just at a meeting probably 6 months ago now. It's not just, but 6 months ago, and everything seems now close. At Nottingham Spurk, where they went through, they described their process. I mean, they went through hundreds of technologies. They narrowed it down to 20, 25. They narrowed that further down to the top 10. Council just approved $250,000 to continue their process, where they will, and they described what are the what do these technologies do, and how could they be used by companies outside of aerospace. And it was fascinating. It was exciting to see. I mean, this is a company that their first big success, I believe, was somebody came to them with a plastic bedpan, and it became the Little Tykes wagon. I mean, they have vision that I certainly would never have. You know, they can turn things from one thing to another. And so that's what we're expecting them, not just hoping, but expecting them to do here with some of the NASA technology. They've promised us that they'll come out of those top 10, at least one, if not more, that can be commercialized by businesses here. So again, I appreciate council's support and Jumpstart's help, and we're moving ahead. Innovation is big. I know that Beju's and have been very involved in innovation in Cleveland, and So it's, hopefully it'll be our middle name, basically. I mean, it's very important to the success of this region. Anybody have any questions for either one of our guest speakers? I guess we covered everything. Ray?
As folks are contemplating questions, I just want to add on to the county executive as far as NASA. I mean, besides the technologies that they have a lot of expertise there, and their facilities are some of the top-notch facilities, are one of a kind. And so that's what we can also offer to our companies. And we mentioned earlier, as far as looking at site selection, I mean, we got to look at some of our anchor institutions, what they offer as far as their unique assets, and include that as part of the package as well.
Yeah.
We sometimes lose sight of what a jewel we have there. That missile, the capsule, is coming back to northeastern Ohio to be analyzed. It's not going anyplace. It's not going to Houston. It's not going to Alabama. It's coming to northeastern Ohio to be analyzed out in Sandusky in the world's largest vacuum chamber in the world, literally in the United States. I think Russia might argue they have one, but it's Russia will argue about everything.
And you're right. I mean, look at icing research.
It's coming to Cleveland.
One of a kind here. You think about drone technology as far as advanced technology, that's a whole area that's coming, and we have unique facilities that we can offer. So we have to think about what we can bring to the table as well when we're competing. It's site selection is important, but you also have to look at some of our unique assets as well.
Good. Anything else? Okay, thank you both. Next up is our small business support overview with Chad and Michael. Oh, and I should have mentioned when I mentioned small business supports with ECDI and Jumpstart, also COSI's been a big supporter and a big partner for us.
Okay, thank you for that. Hello, everyone. Chad Hammond, Vice President of Membership Development and Products at COSI and the Greater Cleveland Partnership. You may all have heard of COSI. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary this year. GCP is the parent entity with membership with over 100 corporate headquarters members, 1,000 middle market companies, and then COSI, the small business arm, home to 11,000 small business members in your nation's largest chamber of commerce. We also have 4,000 small businesses that are housed right here in Cuyahoga County. We have a 40-plus year of history of saving small businesses money on their health plans with our primary partner, Medical Mutual of Ohio. We have nearly 11,000 employer groups covering nearly 140,000 lives. In Cuyahoga County alone, we have nearly 3,400 employer groups covering around 62,000 lives. COSI also provides additional savings to small and mid-sized companies with workers' comp, 401k retirement plans, payroll and HR services, office products, shipping and freight, and much more. In total this year, we saved our members over $100 million, keeping capital into those companies. In additional programs, we also house the MBDA Center for Ohio, focused on growing small minority firms and connecting them to resources. My team also manages a small portion of the grant that helps to navigate MBE companies to federal dollars, ARPA dollars specifically. So if anyone hears of companies that are looking for those MBE resources, we're happy to help. We also collaborate with Cuyahoga County to promote the Skill Up program, which provides financial compensation for training and education. We also supported very heavily the Small Business Stimulus Grant Program that the executive mentioned. One other program that I'll highlight for you is this year, the Cleveland Chain Reaction Program had nearly 80 applicants. We just narrowed it down to 20 businesses, moving on to the finals. Our partners at Jumpstart helped lead a boot camp, developing their business plans, valuing their business, evaluating access to capital options, and helping to scale businesses.
The businesses just pitched to our judges for the chance to win $40,000 for first place, $20,000 for second place, and $10,000 for third. The winners will be announced this Friday, the 16th at Tower City on Kicking It with Kenny on Fox 8 in the morning. So please check that out. All businesses that have applied are being supported by both Cozy and Jumpstart. And we certainly welcome other ways that we can help collaborate with the county's Department of Economic Development in 2023 and beyond. Cozy is particularly sharpening our pencil to focus more on business growth efforts from the small business segments. And with that, I will turn it over to Michael.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. You could put the slide. I'm Michael Obi, representing the Urban League and our newest legal entity affiliate of the Urban League called UBiz Venture Capital, which is about 3 years old. While they're putting up, they have a few slides that I'd like to share with you today. But while he's doing that, I think we should be very proud of the ecosystem that we have built to support small businesses. That ecosystem was tested during the COVID. And thank you, County Executive, for your leadership. It seemed like it's been so long ago when you assembled those weekly calls, troubleshooting and coming up with solutions, how we put our arms around small businesses that need a lot of help. The big companies, the tech ideas and all those things are great, but still, the majority of the economic engine of our community is small businesses. 2/3, I think, is the last statistics of what really feeds our families in Cuyahoga County are small businesses, the jobs that they create. So that ecosystem is so important. An Urban League is in the forefront of that. So far this year, the last number I saw, we've helped over 2,000 small businesses this year. That number is more than double what it used to be pre-COVID, because COVID made us to pivot and look for virtual ways of serving people. So instead of doing workshops and seminars and counseling session in person, people could do that through Zoom while in between running their small businesses. You know, on a coffee shop, they need a counseling session. We're helping them with certification. They could go in the back room and do Zoom, and we help them with their certification. Then they get back to serving coffee. Isn't that beautiful? So we became very efficient. So let's go to the next slide. I'll try to be quick. County has been a great partner, not only to the Urban League, but also to President's Council and other service providers. We do not see each other as competitors. We're all part of the system, and clients shop around. They use Jumpstart for some things. They come to Urban League for certification. They go to ECDI for microloan. So it works beautifully. And the system that we have at the Urban League is very integrated. And I just want to share with you kind of our secret sauce and how we go to market. We are the Cuyahoga County SBDC for the state of Ohio. So we host the Small Business Development Center, which is a national program that is funded through the SBA. So we started that program since 2004. That is for everybody. It's not minority-based. It's for every small business in our community that need help. So you come to their workshop, it feels like United Nations. Okay, you're supposed to laugh on that. That's a joke. In 2009, we built and created and became the host of the MBAC, Minority Business Assistance Center, which Vaughn used to be the director of back in when he was much younger. We handle certification for both the MBE and also the EDGE, the disadvantaged businesses that could be white, Hispanic, people that are veterans, and also women. We do certification. And the current director is Shoshana Duckworth over there. She handles 8 counties But of course, Cuyahoga County is the largest county in our portfolio. Then, if that wasn't enough, in 2011, we said, what could we do differently? We need to help more seasoned businesses to accelerate their growth with high potential. So we started a brand called UBiz. That brand, we leveraged it to start a loan fund. Initially in 2016, we partnered with NDC, and NDC manages the Grow Cuyahoga Fund. And we leveraged $6 million out of that with $2 million we raised with Morgan Stanley. And we deployed probably close to $5 million in 2.5 years to about 32 businesses here in our community, which average loan was about $145,000. Those investments, most of them have paid off. People talk about risk. When you're in lending, it's all about risk. And people shy away from making loans to small business because they think they're not going to pay back. But we have proven that they do pay back because they're so happy that somebody took a chance on them. So we only, probably out of all that portfolio, we only have one loan out of 32. If you do the percentage, that's less than 5%. That really is questionable that we're in workout out of 32. Okay, and Vaughn, you were part of that back in those days. But anyway, the biggest exciting news that I want to share with you while we're working on how we partner with the county in the past 2.5 years is the next slide. So if you could go to the next slide. So we said that partnership worked beautifully with NDC. We wanted a local. NDC is a great organization, but it was a New York headquarter company. And we had people in our underwriting and loan committee that are from California and New York. We wanted a local fund where the loan committee members are people that know the community. So that's how we started UBiz. And to start UBiz, most of the people that we asked to fund and invest that money, they asked for what is called loan loss provision. Again, risk, because they're afraid it may go bad. So to do that, the county stepped up and gave us $200,000, but that money haven't changed hand. That money is still sitting in the vault. But that's what made people like Ray and some of the bankers and people that want to invest in our fund to say, yes, I could give you $1 million, and then the first 10% or 20%, if it goes bad, I will take the hit. But so far, haven't gone bad. So we raised $2 million. So basically, by the county stepping up with that confidence of loan loss provision that you have not spent, the county haven't spent that money yet, we were able to borrow $2 million at 1% interest rate. So that's how we were able to launch this fund 2 years ago. Next slide. Another opportunity where we actually leverage a fund that came through the COVID Relief Fund through Department of Commerce. It's called Economic Development Administration Revolving Loan Fund. Ray Leach at Fund for Economic Future helped us, and we worked together with many organizations because it's a match fund. So the county was part of that match. Yes? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes. What did I say? Ray Leach. Brad Whitehead. I'm sorry. Brad Whitehead. Yes. Yes. Brad Whitehead at the Fund for Economic Future. We collaborated to bring this EDA fund. EDA Revolving Loan Fund is a gift that keeps giving. That's why it's called Revolving Loan Fund. The city of Cleveland has it, but the other other cities around Cuyahoga County don't have it. So the city of Cleveland could only lend that money into businesses in the city of Cleveland. So we went after getting that portion of that EDA for the rest of the communities. So that's the beauty of that. And the county provided the match fund, portion of the match fund. We needed to raise 20% of the 2.25, which was 450,000. So GCP helped to fund the match, and the county gave invested $200,000. So we were able to successfully receive that award from Department of Commerce for $2.25 million. I'm pleased to say we've lent out all these funds I mentioned. We're getting close to lending out about $2 million already in the midst of the pandemic to businesses that need help. I'm going to pause right there, see if anybody has any questions for me.
Probably a softball question, but we sit in this room and we talk about millions of dollars, and you're talking about $200,000 that you multiplied.
Yeah.
What does the community need? What does the small business community need to really be able to have an impact?
I love that question. Thank you for that softball. Okay, good. So, I'm a businessman, beyond the work I do in the economic development space. I'm always looking every 2-3 years, what are the new things we could do to keep upping our game, to keep improving the livelihood of our businesses and the people in our community. So the next question, after we celebrated the launch of UBiz 3 years ago, my next question is, how could we do more? And who are we not helping? The people we're not helping are the legacy Black-owned businesses. And also, Black businesses are not in the innovation space. Let's face it. All these billions we're talking about don't have enough minorities in it. That's the reality. You don't see a lot of business people of color. So we launched what is called Business Growth Institute on November 1st at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. That's a $50 million initiative to change that. So we've started that with the investment from Chase, about $500,000 from Chase, to get the staff, the expertise we need to deliver on that, sustaining the legacy businesses and growing more Black-owned companies that could do $1 million or more in the growth sectors: renewable energy, advanced manufacturing, IT, software development, and so on and so forth. So we have to do it in this community for us to really move the needle in terms of being kind of part of that poor city where household income is more like 30-something thousand in some of the neighborhoods that people of color reside. So we need $50 million. That's our next adventure, if you will. Yeah. So we'll be coming back to the county to say, what could you invest? Yes. Yes. Yeah, we'll be. So if you could make note, I'll be calling our new county executive-elect. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
No,
Yes.
not a question, but comment. There's nothing that stops a Black entrepreneur or business owner to come up with an innovative idea to help solve the opiate solutions for creativity. We obviously know that there are many Black entrepreneurs who invented things like the gas mask here in Cleveland. They invented the traffic light here. So let's open the doors and let your creativity flow to your membership. There's absolutely, we are a big tent around this and would love to have everybody part of it. So
sounds good. Amen to that.
Yes, but we're trying to get the same $50 million. So.
I would just add, first of all, Michael, thank you. Michael, also, for those who don't know, is on our CCCIC group, which I don't even remember what those letters stand for, but that's the committee. What does it stand for, Matt?
The other CCC is also on as well.
Yes.
Oh, he's on both?
Yeah.
Community investment. Okay, good. That's the group that is, as I mentioned earlier, the county is not good at picking winners of small business, investments. We're also not good with other kinds of investments. So when we do a real estate deal, for example, that goes to the CCCIC,
That's right.
and they evaluate it and tell us whether we're on the right track or not. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
And I also want to mention, Vaughn, you can talk for a second, our recent stimulus program, which, I don't know, how many of you remember Huff Bakery?
Yes.
Everybody? Okay, well, Huff Bakery lives, and it lives in the name of Archie. There's a fellow that was working at Huff years ago. He was one of the chief bakers, and I think he bought
That's right.
the Archie, the Huff name and recipes, and he's in business and small business. But we just did a stimulus program, that one was designed not to save small businesses, which is what we did during the pandemic, but this was designed to help small businesses grow. So we gave 10,000 to 50,000 grants
10,000, 25, and 50.
to help companies either buy equipment that they could grow with or hire more staff to grow with. So, that was very important for many of these companies. And Archie's was one of those that they wanted to buy this giant mixer, which they could then put out more of the great Huff Bakery cakes, and they were elated to have been selected as one of the winners. Do you want to say anything else about the program?
I was going to say where we talked about innovation a little bit earlier, and we're talking about small business. You want to talk about how innovation and small business actually come together. Many of the folks that served on the Small Business Advisory Grants Committee are from the organizations that are represented here. So we had, people that already had innovative ideas, and we came up with the idea of not this being, as the executive said, kind of a rescue grant, but those businesses that really have thrived or survived through the pandemic, how can we help them grow and scale? And then the words start getting tossed around about significant, transformative, impactful. We want to make investments in businesses that's really going to help them to grow and not just necessarily pay the bills or the utilities or things like that. And to the executive's point about businesses being able to buy machinery or adding staff or launching a marketing campaign or another piece of equipment. So we're confident that all of those dollars are going to organizations that, first of all, have survived the pandemic. They're looking to grow and scale, and those investments are going to be impactful to their organization. That's how we came up with STEM for stimulus.
And what percentage of those awardees were minorities?
I believe it's close to 100.
I think that's right.
I believe it's close to 100. Close to 100% of all the awardees are minority-owned businesses.
I thought that was a requirement.
I think it was.
I think it was a requirement.
Well, it was.
Yeah.
Well.
Wondering how to word it.
Well, it was part of the scoring criteria that there was scoring criteria towards minority-owned businesses that also had outside capital. So you couldn't just be minority and say, hey, we qualify for this grant, but you had to have some outside capital, some skin in the game too.
That's right. Okay. And
Anybody else have questions for Michael or Chad?
okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So we're basically at the end of our time too. So anybody else have anything they want to
I
add?
have one comment that is, sorry, Dan, you go. I just want, mine's a finishing one, so I'll let you go ahead.
We may be on the same track. My seat on this commission is the labor seat. It's guaranteed, specifically enumerated in the charter, and it's an honor to serve on this commission and present that voice when I have the chance. And I just wanted to take the opportunity at the end of this meeting on behalf of the workers of this county to thank you, Mr. Executive, for your leadership and your work. You don't need to stretch your neck too far out any window in this town to see people working as a result of your leadership and economic development, and certainly those who work in this building and in other county buildings as well. Again, greatly appreciate your leadership and your partnership, and wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I
That'll teach me to
appreciate that.
relinquish the microphone. And I was going to say the same thing, Daniel. Armin, it's been a great working experience for these last 8 years together, being the co-chair on this. We both share a bond in economic development and know the importance of the job and how important it is to everything going on here in Northeastern Ohio. We wish you all the best of luck. You were not at the last council meeting, so this is actually probably the last formal.
Friday.
You're gonna be Friday?
Yeah, I'll be
Yeah, but there's no audience on Friday. That's a special meeting. At least at this meeting, we have the public here. So congratulations for a good run for 8 years, and we wish you all the best of luck, and you and your bride out there.
Well, I really appreciate that, and of course, labor has been a key, both for me personally, my progress within the governments and for the county. We have had great relationship. I mean, Jack can testify to the fact that I don't think for the county, and we have, 34, 36 unions at the county, and we've never had strife. We've never had a strike. We've never had threats of, walkouts or anything like that. I mean, it's not always totally smooth, but it's been pretty smooth. And we have great workers. And of course, when we've done economic development, we've looked out for the workers too. So thank you for that. And Jack has been, even though Jack was the one that ran against me when I first ran for this office, and we've become friends. And Jack has been the strongest supporter on county council for all of our economic development efforts. So we really appreciate
Everything starts
that.
with a job.
Everything starts with a job. So anyhow, and thank you all for everything you all do. I could speak about most of you individually. I won't because we're at our time, but thank you. I'll do it individually, separately, but thank you all very much.
Need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Anybody want to move to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we're adjourned.